For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Luke chapter 12, verse 34. This Bible verse is so incredibly profound, and it's one of, if not my favorite verse in the entire Bible. And the reason I believe it's so profound is that it paints this incredibly detailed and informative picture about the entire walk of faith that we take. As believers, we have to constantly ask ourselves, where is our treasure? What is our treasure? But if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, what is a treasure? A treasure is something that you find irreplaceable or invaluable. And it's extremely important that we define certain things as irreplaceable and invaluable in our lives. Those definitions can shift and change, but also what we define as those things is incredibly important. That being said, this is one of Jesus' most important messages, and I want to stress to you how important it is to understand this as a Christian. Jesus is saying that whatever we ultimately value the most, our hearts will be there. He's saying that our well-being and joy hinges on what we define as valuable. This has major significance in our walk with Christ. If you treasure something of this world and not God too significantly, you will never actually experience true joy. You will never actually be happy. A lot of people wake up every day and it's just their goal to be happy, to chase happiness, to chase satisfaction. And in reality, if those people don't have faith in the God that we have faith in, they're just chasing these empty things that will gratify them only for a short amount of time. And even if it's something that's in the long term, like a successful career or lots of money or good people to surround themselves with, see, all of those things disappear, either when other things go or when we go. And by go, I mean when we die, because people die, things disappear. My point is, nothing in the world is permanent. If you treasure money, if you put value into money too much, the second that money is spent, the second that money maybe gets stolen, the second that money isn't there anymore, the second you have to use it on something you don't expect, now you're not happy because you're just working towards more money. If you put your heart into people's opinions will always change. People will try to deface you for your values. People will try to make you look bad in some instances. People are flawed and inconsistent. If you base your joy on what other people think about you, you will never be happy. Think about it this way. As Christians, there are about 2.5 billion of us on planet Earth that say we're Christians. That means there's 5.5 billion people that disagree with our worldview. If you treasure your own abilities and the things that you're able to do, the second you underperform, you no longer experience joy. If you treasure substances and short-term pleasures over God, that means you're just going to be living for the next fix. That means when you don't get your fix, you're not going to be happy. You start living fix to fix, and that will never ultimately satisfy you. Before I get into the most profound meaning of this verse, let's dive into some context behind it. Jesus says, "Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses or money bags for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, your heart is also." Luke chapter 12, verses 32 through 34. Jesus is saying that when you put your faith, your trust, your self-image, your joy into things that aren't God, it is a recipe for disaster. A thief can destroy your money. A rumor can destroy your reputation. An injury can destroy your ability. A lack of substances can cause withdrawals. But nothing can ever stop God's promise and God's grace. A thief cannot steal God from you. You can always have God whenever you want. Jesus is reinforcing this idea that everything of the world is impermanent and temporary. Eventually, all things will fade, and only that which is eternal, like our souls, like God, last. It is very unwise to place your faith and joy into things that are impermanent of this world, because it will ultimately lead to suffering. The world fluctuates constantly. People are inconsistent. Substances are inconsistent. Money is inconsistent. The only thing that is consistent is God. You can't name one thing in this entire world that is as consistent as God. Treasuring God above all things keeps you at an equilibrium. Instead of going up and down depending on what these things of the world are doing and hinging your joy based on that, if you hinge it on God, that means it's constant. And that joy isn't just, mediocre. That joy is, I get to live life forever with a God that loves me, and I have to love other people. I am commanded to love people. I'm commanded to share the good news. That's a good thing. I'm commanded to make others joyful with the good news. I'm here to shine the light of Christ. That's a high bar. That's a lot of joy that you can feel if you just let it hinge on God's promise and not things of the world. Imagine you're a ship. You have to drop anchor. You're in a storm. That anchor has to be consistent. If it's not consistently heavy, then you're gonna just be blown every which way. Say that anchor is money. Say that anchor is people's opinions. That anchor will not always be effective because sometimes it does not serve you. You as the ship are going everywhere. But if that anchor is God, it's consistently there, it's consistently holding you down, and it's keeping you in the same frame that no matter what comes at you, no matter what storm comes at you, you are staying rock solid because you know God is anchoring you. So my question to you is this: how many times are you going to let the inconsistent fluctuation of worldly things dictate your emotions? If you can follow what Jesus teaches here, you are on your way to liberation. Every time you catch yourself valuing something more than you value God, every time you catch yourself being super disappointed and depressed and sad and complaining and totally just disgruntled because something doesn't go your way in the world, like this money, this job, this person doesn't like you, are you really going to let those things ultimately determine how you feel about your afterlife? Are you going to let those things affect your walk with Christ? Are you going to let those things drag you down from your mission of sharing the light of Christ, of being that joyful person that people say, what do they have that I don't have? It's a responsibility we have as Christ followers to not let these things affect us. Because if we let these normal worldly things affect us, we look no better and no different from the next person that hinges their joy on their money or their reputation. We have to be different. We have to be supernaturally different with the gift of the Spirit that we have inside of us. People need to say, wait, that doesn't bother you? How does that not bother you? How are you this patient? How does this not totally destroy you? It's because we have Him, and He is our anchor. He is consistent. Expect inconsistency from the world, but know that God is consistent. Pay very close attention that you're not treasuring anything above God, because that ultimately will lead to suffering. Thanks for watching. Follow the call to Christ, defend the faith, and God bless.